Welcome to Sekou Style. This is your boy, Chief Big B. You already know. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to this channel because we have a lot of good things to give you. Today we're going to be talking about leadership, but the focus is going to be on the youth. Leadership is a vague topic, so just stay tuned. We're going to focus on really youth leadership and why the lack of it is actually causing leadership problems in Africa and in African communities in the United States or in the diaspora. At least I know about the US, so let me talk about the US and mostly New York. So one thing I've noticed, because this is really about what I've noticed, right? I mean, you agree with me or you can disagree with me, it's okay. It's my opinion, right? But one thing that I've noticed is that, we always talk about leadership. And there's a lot of people want leadership positions. Everywhere we go, every organization, we have position. Myself, I hold I don't know how many positions or titles. But the question becomes, what is leadership and why, we are failing so much in that department. Because I've noticed people just carry positions but do nothing. And worse off, why are we failing the next generation? Now that, this generation is almost in a place where we already failed ourselves. And because prior generation, the previous one failed us, and the blame could go on and on and on. But how can we really break that circle and to make sure that we do the right things now, that our children will benefit from it? What can we do? And that's why I'm focusing this topic today on youth leadership. And what I've noticed is that we will go to these parties, we will have these organizations and conventions, and there will be this is where it's supposed to be leadership meetings, and we'll have these leadership meetings, but most of the time, almost all the time, you will not see, in these conventions or leadership meetings, you will not see anything geared towards the young people, the youth. Now, the closest it ever gets when it comes to, addressing this leadership deficit in our community, the closest it ever gets is that most of the time they will try to bring in a soccer tournament, football tournament for Africans, football. And they will bring football, and even the football games is usually among grown-ups, adults. And they will go play against each other to say, that's considered bringing the youth in. And most of the time, the definition of youth is even, it's really laughable because, you see 45 years old claiming to be youth. And, it takes away the value of us really being deliberate in training the next generation. So our leaders with all the titles running around the community, calling themselves president, whatever, chairman, chairlady, chair, whatever. And all these things are happening, but yet when these presidents, these chairmen and secretary general and all the other position and titles and everything that they carry along, you wonder why they are not using those positions to start to be deliberate about their action and focus on the young generation, the young Africans, diasporan in America, especially in New York, Philadelphia. All these big cities have conventions that will challenge these young people who are grown up in different culture, in the Western culture, to try to, educate them about the African culture and also try to educate them about leadership in the African context. That barely ever happened. You don't see our leaders thinking about putting mentorship programs together. Let's say Sekou has graduated from a world-renowned criminal justice school. What are the children or kids who are interested in criminal justice? What can Sekou be able to guide them through? Or Sekou have worked in these sectors. How can Sekou be relevant to these kids? How can Sekou How can we bring the kids and bring the professionals and make sure that we are guiding them in the right direction? So we are failing our young generation. We are failing the young generation. We are so focused on our titles and creating these parties, these conventions. I have nothing against it because it's necessary at times, right? These conventions, these parties are necessary for people to go relax themselves, have fun. The country is too stressful. I agree. The country is too stressful. But what we are failing to know is that if we allowing that stress to create something that, future generation will also have to go through the same stress pattern. They will just be working. It's like, because again, lack of leadership, lack of vision, because you need leadership to create this kind of vision for our people. Now, the lack of vision, our people will perish. And this is what's happening. Now you see in our communities, a lot of our young guys, especially young boys, are going through the criminal justice system. And we have a lot of community organizations, a lot of community leaders. I'm not blaming anybody. And it starts from home, right? Leadership starts from home, in my sense. The parents, we are all busy. I understand. It's a given. Everybody's busy in this country. However, we have to make time for our children. We have to make time for our family. We have to make time to kind of, start that leadership training at home. Nothing is perfect. The environment does have impact in it. There's a lot of things that could have impact, but are you making the effort? Are you just not following the mighty dollars? Are you making the effort? And for our organization and our community leaders and our leaders in national leaders, are we making collective effort to try to bring in the young mind into our institutions and try to prepare them, guide them for them to lead the next generation with vision? Are we making those deliberate efforts? Now, for me, I think we are not. And I think this is why I want for us to start the discussion. How can we make such efforts? And this is why it's important that we start creating mentorship programs, right? We start creating, so when we're having conventions, huge conventions, in different African communities, the African diaspora community in America, when we're having these conventions, we have to bring in the youth for them to take part in this convention, not to become, spectators, but, they have to be really participants. They're not just sitting down watching the adult dance and hold their titles and do all this stuff. No. For the kids to actually take part, to also create programs for them to be leading, from our churches, our mosques, our places of worship, our homes, to give leadership to these children and then make them come out and have vision. At least challenge them that, they should be challenging our notion of leadership. They should be bringing out something new. But how can we do that if we are not giving them the opportunity to actually step up the plate? From what I see right now, we are not giving these people the opportunity. Again, like I said, the best example we could give is, they have a basketball game. The children will go play the basketball game. The adult will sit down and watch them. When after the basketball game, maybe they'll give them food, or they have a soccer game. The kids will play, they'll run around. But do we have leadership conference for children? Literally, just leadership conference for children. The adult will come and teach them about leadership in Africa, teach them about African leaders, teach them about what really is going on the continent, or how to lead with an African concept, where, how African leaders have been thinking, how we think as people, our culture, how to, kind of ingrain that into their head and just create a convention for all that. It's not, bring the children together, put an age limit from, let's say, 16 or 14 to 26 or 30 between the age, and break down the age groups, make sure that, people now, the mentors are like people from 30 to 35, 45, from 45 to 50. These people are mentoring these people, deliberately design programs to say, okay, this is how we're going to do. The youth will be catered in this manner. The youth will have leadership program. It doesn't have to be political leadership. And this is one thing too. When people talk about leadership in our community, Everybody's minds just jump to political leadership because that's what we know most of the time. But leadership doesn't really necessarily mean political leadership. It's just being able to take initiative, being accountable, being able to be responsible, do things that the community do. People who will be able to do the right thing in any field that they're in, whether it's nursing, we all need leaders in all sectors, not just political, the economy leader, the business leaders. So we have to be able to think. So our leaders, really, now leaders need to have the vision to be able to think beyond today, to think 3, 4 generations from now. Many of us, we all come into America saying, oh, after 5 years, after 10 years, we're going back home. Guess what? Your children are here, they are born here, they're growing up here. You going back home, it's pretty much, sometimes it's a myth. I mean, some people will go back home. Let's not get it twisted. Some people will definitely go back home, but not all of us. Not everyone will go back home. Maybe let's say if we were to go 100% or 10 fingers, right? Maybe only 2 will go back home, really move back home. Speaking from experience, I've moved back home. I came back to the United States because we know what it is. And we have to start training our children how to live in an American culture. We have to start, but with the African value that they have, so we won't lose our culture. And in order for us to do that, it has to be a collective, working together as a community, not just a few people who are, well off. They could send their children to prep schools, they could still do, all these good things, or they are very hands-on, they could really teach their children. That's fine and good. But if we start thinking now as a community, like, okay, how can we really use our collective power to really instill something good in our children so they could grow up in this country and become better leaders in their field of choosing? Or if they decide to go back to Africa, they could become better leaders in Africa as well, right? How can we do that? And we cannot do that with what we are doing right now. It's like, there's always a saying that, doing the same thing over and expecting a different result is called insanity. Some people say that Albert Einstein said it, but some people argue that he didn't say it. But the saying still stands true. Yeah, it stands true, because if we keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different result, we're not going to get different result. We need to change it. And I think right now, when it comes to leadership, we need to focus on our youth and be deliberate and have programs. Other people are doing it. Other ethnic groups, other groups, people are doing it. And Africans, we can do the same thing too. We have to be deliberate. We have to create African Leadership Academy, or what can tailor towards this, like, young generation Africans, men and women, bring them, get them mentors, be deliberate. Like when we have a convention, bring these young people in, so they could be able to give back to their community, be part of the community. Because I feel like sometimes when I was younger, I didn't feel included in my community. I feel like sometimes when you go there, like, these people who came here, these American kids, sometimes they would think you're American, or they would just put you on the side, because the gathering is not mostly about the kids. It's about the adult really getting out from their jobs and just coming to have a good time. Where it shouldn't be. It should be about the children, or it should be both. Where the adult could have a good time because they deserve it, but the children also should have a good time where they are being trained to be better leaders. I was fortunate. I was part of an African organization that really tried to, but end up failing because, again, lack of support from the community, lack of support from community members, and we don't see the vision. Those who have the vision, they end up overshadowed because people rather go party right now, the instant gratification. Let's go party, let's go have a good time. Then, let's put our children, let it go to camp, or let it go to this. Let them do X, Y, and Z to prepare them to be leaders of this community. So today, I'm really passionate about this. I already started talking about mentorship programs. I am a mentor. Like, I have a couple of kids who I mentor around. And I think it's about time that, We need to be deliberate in creating leaders in our community. We have to be deliberate. It has to be a process, a system put in place that will start holding young men and women accountable, bringing them closer, taking their brains. Even my videos, who edit my video most of the time? My little nephew. I consider myself to be his mentor. Me and him, we work in collaboration on a lot of things. But we have to bring these kids here and for them to be able to do the right thing.